Hi, everybody. This is Carol Hill, and I want to welcome you to our U.S. South Facebook event on how to find Tennessee ancestors in the early 1800s. We really hope that this is something that will be useful and would love to get your feedback of how it helped. So, first off, I just want to let you know it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be totally worth it. So, if you're ready, do you have your detective hat on? Let's get started. Okay, so one of the first steps I like to do to find early ancestors, and this is for Tennessee or any state in the United States, is we first need to collect everything we can coming from 1850 forward, and especially find them in the census records from 1850 until they're deceased. And the reason why, as most of you know, the 1850 has all the names of those living in the household. Before that, we only get heads of household. So it's really crucial if to try to find them in the 1850 on. And if you can't, we're going to discuss that too in a little while. So where is your family or ancestor in the 1850 census? Once you find them in that first census, make sure you check the image. Always check the image because you're going to find more clues. For instance, when you check the image, you can see who his neighbors are. Could they be a sibling? And if it's a sibling, you could look for them, and maybe you'll find information about parents from that. Also, keep track of name variations. Sometimes those will give you clues, and sometimes that'll help you find them again if it's kind of a crazy name variation. Also, when you're looking at the census records, is there an older person living in the census with that same surname? Could that possibly be a parent? Because that's really what we're trying to find are the parents of these early ancestors. Keep track when you find them on a census what counties they live in, because this could give you other sources and records to look for. Search for surname in that county and surrounding counties. You know, sometimes you'll be looking for a specific ancestor, and then you search for their surname, and you're going to find other people that with that same surname, and you know they're going to be related somehow, cousins, siblings, family members. Where is the head of the household born in the census? Can you find this person on the 1880 census? Because if we can find your ancestor on the 1880 census, it should give us where his parents were born, and that's what we're really trying to figure out is where we're going to be going. So one thing that we really need to do is make sure that you keep record of everything you find and attach those sources. If you have an ancestry tree or a family search tree, or if you use a database like Roots Magic, make sure you keep track of all these, and even ones that you think might not be, or you're not for sure, just because they could turn up to be the right ones. So make sure that you attach anything that you believe is right. And second of all, make sure you keep notes. You can use Evernote, you can use OneNote, you can use Microsoft Word, you can just pull out a piece of paper or notebook and keep track and just write everything that you find, because as you do this forward and then you start going back, you're going to start getting some clues and things are going to kind of start coming together for you. So it's really crucial that you keep track of this. They also even have research papers that you can fill out, but just whatever works for you, whatever you like. You can make up your own system. Okay, so we're going to do a little case study. Chris Skaggs posted this a few days ago on our US South Facebook page. And she says, I'm looking for parents of Alfred Langley. He was born 20th of December, 1810 in Wilson County, Tennessee. His father was supposed to have come from Virginia. On the 1870 Arkansas census, it shows a Mary living with him, age 74, that I believe is his mother. So he says this is the 1870, but let's go ahead and start with the 1850 census, because I like to first find him there. So he was born in 1810, and as you can see, we have an Alfred A. Langley, and he is living in Van Buren, Arkansas, and born 1811, Tennessee. And as you know, it may not be exactly 1810, but it's going to vary in a year, a year either way, sometimes or more, depending on what the census taker wrote or what when they took the census record. So, but we've got Alfred A. Langley and his wife, and Chris told me that that was his wife. And then we've got 7 children here. And then here is this Mary Langley, 74 years old. And look, she is born in South Carolina. And so I believe this is the one that Chris was talking about that she thought was on the 1870 census. And it's actually on the 1850 census. So it is a Mary Langley, and so it could possibly be his mother. And so what I'd like to do is go ahead and make sure you note the place in 1850 is Van Buren, and I like to find that on a map. So what I like to do is use the raogk.org. That is the Random Acts of Genealogical Kindness, and what I love about their maps is that you can put in what year you would like to look at. And this is the 1850 Arkansas map, and this shows where Van Buren is located. And so I just like to keep track because as you look at other census records, you can kind of see their movement. So again, here is the possible mother, Mary Langley, and we can subtract 74 from 1850 and find out that she was born about 1776 and in South Carolina possibly. Another thing you could do is you can get clues from this census record, like when did they move to Arkansas? If you come down here and look at Harriet Langley, the last child that's born, she was born in Arkansas, but 4 years earlier her sister was born in Tennessee. So that gives us some clues about when we go backwards where we're going to go. Another thing from this census is that you could actually look for Mary in the 1860 census. She would be 84, but maybe she is living with one of Alfred's siblings. I don't believe we have any siblings yet for him, and so this could be someone else that we could follow forward to be able to try to make sure we have parents. So anyway, great clues from census records, and keep note of all these so that when you go back, you'll remember those because that's hard to remember once you get going. Okay, so this is the 1850 census image. And the reason, again, why we want to look at those is there's neighbors could be relatives, and make sure and write them down or copy and save this image too. And this is a little bit hard for you to see, but here's Alfred Langley, and this is his family and his mom right there, 74. And then in South Carolina, I circled this South Carolina because there's also this Elizabeth Christopher who is 49 years old that could be related. She's born in South Carolina. Mary is too, and maybe they're related somehow. Another thing is there's this younger woman here, a Mary Stobaugh, and she's born in Tennessee. She's 26 years old, but could she be a widowed sister of Alfred? She has children in Arkansas, born in Arkansas, and maybe the family moved to try to help her because maybe her husband had died. So anyway, there's just clues, and I mean, it may not be right, but just things to think about and things to write down as possibilities because they may connect as you go forward. Okay, so we've got them in the 1850 census, so let's go forward, and where are they in the 1860 and 70? So here's Alfred Langley. It's spelled the same way as Chris shared with us, and now he's in Madison County, Arkansas. Here's his family. This is what it looks like. There's also a William Dotson. Doesn't look like they've had more children. And so then look at the 1870 census. This is Alfred too, but look at the way they spell his name. Just they abbreviated Alfred to Alf, and the last name Langly without the E. And also notice on this there is a Mary Langley that's a wife, and so not sure, that's something we would want to keep track of because maybe Elizabeth and Mary are two different people. So both censuses that are in Madison County, Arkansas, could be a new wife, a new son, George, since he's 9 years old, and then also grandkids. So some other clues that may help us as we go backwards. Okay, and one thing again, and we're not going to do this here, is you would want to check the census images again, because on that 1870 it looks like there's a son living next door. Okay, so let's look at a map again from the raogk.org, and this is where Madison County is, and previously Van Buren County. So they didn't really move very far. They could be a tenant farmer and just farming some other land, or maybe bought land there. But other clues that we'll look at too later on. But a lot of times ancestors would move more westward as land opened up. And so watch that, because if you have someone living here and then they're moving way back over to North Carolina, that wasn't a movement that they went like that very often. So just be aware of those kind of things too. That's why I like to keep track of where they are on the map. Okay, so this is like the best thing that can happen to you is the 1880 census. I put woohoo because if you can find them in the 1880 census, you will be shouting woohoo. And so this is Alfred A. Langley, and look, they've left the E off in the Langley. And this, why I love the 1880 census, is because it tells the birthplace of the father and the mother. And there's a chance that this may not be right, but at least you've got something to go by and something that you can use. They're still in the Madison County, Arkansas. And so the 1850 census indicated that Mary, who could be Alfred's mother, was born in South Carolina. On this one, it shows that the mother and father were born in North Carolina. And so that might be correct or not. So just make a note of that. Make sure you're making notes all along on this. Okay, so as most of you know, the 1890 U.S. Census, most of it was destroyed. And so I searched for other records for Alfred Langley, and I found that he actually died in Madison County, that same county he's been living in for 20 years, in 1890. And so I'm not going to find him in the 1900 census. But one thing I wanted to bring up about the Find a Grave is that it's got such great information, and I love it. But as you can see over here on the left, there's the wife, and then there's 3 children. And we actually have found 7 children on the census records. And so make sure that you don't depend on the Find a Grave to have all the members, because these are just links to their graves. And so some of the other children are not even listed here yet. So, but it's awesome. I love Find a Grave. So what you could do from this information is you could try to find a death certificate or an obituary to see if you can find parents that way. And so I actually called the county clerk in Madison County just to see if there was any chance that they had records on the county level for the death. And she told me that she didn't, that they were just kept at the state level and they didn't start till 1914. But it doesn't hurt to call or look for information and just ask. I would ask. Okay, so before we leave the Find a Grave, I just wanted to just mention one other thing, how you can also get good clues from the Find a Grave. So this shows Alfred's first wife, Elizabeth, and she did die in 1860. So that 1870 and 1880 is a second wife. And so we would want to try to find his second marriage in case parents were listed there. Well, that's what you're trying to do, is every time you can think of a record that might list the, Alfred's parents, then you're going to try to find it. And I don't know if they have, I haven't looked. But that's something you could look for. And what I love here, which is going to really help us going back, and you'll see tomorrow, this Find a Grave provides information on his wife's parents. So it says his father was William Sharp, mother was Eleanor Mayfield, and this is going to really help us go backwards. So make sure and make a note of that too. So we found him on the census records, and now what you want to do is find them in any record after 1850 that you can find him in. And so one place that you can look is you can go to the Family Search Wiki. Look and see if they have any suggestions for finding records. I would search Ancestry and Family Search. Look at county records. Look for an obituary. You could call the cemetery. look at US Gen Web. I love that website. You could also try to find a newspaper. You know when he died, 1890. You could see if there's any newspapers in that county around that time that might list an obituary. And then you can also just Google his name with his death information. And sometimes you'll find even obituaries that way. This is pretty long ago, and so you may not find an obituary, but it doesn't hurt just to do some more searching and see if there's any other records you can find him in before we step backwards. So in conclusion, you want to find all the records from 1850 until they are deceased. So what we know so far for Alfred Langley's parents is, first off, his mother's first name is probably Mary, born about 1776 in either South Carolina or North Carolina, and that his father was born in North Carolina and probably not Virginia. So we don't know a lot, but at least you know you'll be back into the Carolinas, so that's really helpful. So I just want to challenge each of you to find your ancestor in every record you can after 1850, but I would definitely start with census records. And if they die before 1850, can you find a sibling to search for instead? And if you can't find them in one of the census records, try varying your search, like search last name only, first name only in the place you think they lived, just a wildcard search, and then let us know what you find or need help. We really want everybody to have a success and have fun and be able to learn and find your ancestors. So let us know. Happy hunting.